Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate. My name's Emily and today's video is a highly anticipated video. It is the tour of the mighty 79 series Land Cruiser. So who better to take us through that but Michael. So let's go find him.
G'day, Michael from Ultimate. Em's told me there's been lots of inquiries about the fit out of the 79 series that's just taken Wendy and I 14,000 kilometres through some of the most rugged and remote country in Australia. I got to say that we put a fair amount of effort into being able to fit out a pretty standard vehicle, but without modifying it to extreme. The goal that Wendy and I had on this particular trip was to be able to take our Ultimate and the 79 series, of course, to those rugged places, and to be able to come back without so much as a puncture, a damaged tyre, anything coming loose, anything breaking, any damage, any failure. I'm pretty pleased to say that we ticked that box. Nothing let us down at all. But I've also got to say that we saw a lot of people with shredded tyres and damaged vehicles, and I strongly believe that there's a few things that you've got to do when you're travelling the outback. Good preparation is really important, not just of the vehicle and the camper trailer, but also of yourself. You've got to know where you're going and what you're doing. 2, air down. Let the tyres down. Gives you great traction. Takes a lot of the trauma from the road surfaces out before it even reaches your suspension. It makes it easier on you and the vehicle and the camper trailer too. Slow down and enjoy it. There shouldn't be a hurry. If you're in a hurry in the outback, you're going to have problems. You're going to break things, and that's going to slow you down even more. So slow down and drive to road conditions. Now, we're probably a bit extreme here in our testing and evaluating. I'll show you after a laser temperature gauge that I use to check the temperatures of the tyres, of the bearings, of the brakes, and even the shock absorbers. And I've got to say that our tyres got fairly hot on the sunny side, up to 65 degrees. That's not much at all. Our shock absorbers, the highest temperature any of them reached was about 60 degrees. And that's well within the working parameters of the manufacturers of the shocks. So why didn't we have any failures? We prepared, we aired down, we slowed down, and we drove to conditions, and we kept a good eye on things while we're doing it. So anyway, let me take you around the 79 series, and the good place to start, of course, is at the front. I really wanted to keep weight down as much as possible. I believe weight is the enemy. So there are certain things that I still needed to get there. We needed a bull bar, and I was keen on an Australian-made one, so we spoke to the team at Unique 4x4 in Melbourne, and they basically supplied and fitted this bar for us. It gives me a place to mount a winch, good quality Warn winch there, and then there's lots of great quality winches, just like there's lots of great quality bars, but this is the one that we've chosen. It gives us a place to mount the lights as well, and we try to avoid driving at dusk and dawn and really try hard not to drive at night, and we've done a good job on this particular trip. But when we do get caught out driving at night, it's fantastic to have these. In fact, these Navas, and again there's lots of other great quality lights out there, but when you're driving on high beam with these and you've got to go back to low beam, it's like someone turned the lights out totally and all you've got is candle light. They are really good. On this trip we only had to use the winch once. We got stuck up Wolf Creek. We kind of forgot how soft river gravel can be, river sand. But we got out pretty easily. Some people might say we didn't try hard enough. We've only used it once, but nonetheless. On the front, of course, UHF antenna. We've put a FM antenna as well. Both of these are GME. The antenna that comes on the Land Cruiser is temporary at best, the automatic one, because guaranteed when you're going through thick bush with your antenna up, it's going to be bent. So rather than that, we've turned it into another useful item. So again, at the front, unique Australian-made bull bar. We didn't go the full hoot, and we just figured we'd make sure that if in the event of a collision with a large animal, We're protecting the radiator mostly here. We pop some lights, so be it. And you do need a bar, I believe, to be able to at least mount antennas and auxiliary lights on. Coming down the side from there, the rubber. These tyres, we haven't run the Mickey Thompsons on our own vehicles before, but now our whole fleet is running Mickey Thompsons. We're not giving them a plug because they gave us a discount or something. We buy a lot of wheels, so we get a reasonable rate. But we only buy the wheels that we believe are good. And these ATZs, as I said when I opened up this segment, we've just done 14,000 kilometres of some of the most rugged and remote country, running those rear tyres at 15 psi, the trailer tyres at 10 and these front tyres at 10. And the traction that they gave us was just amazing. There was no sand dunes that stopped us, well, not with the use of some max tracks, but they really perform well. Now, as I was saying, I check the temperature on these on a regular basis. I check the air pressures too, because there's differences between cold pressures and hot pressures. And I check for damage. And I have seen that I've got a little nick in one of these tyres. It might be this one here, but the nick it's so small to be negligible, to be trivial. So I'm really pleased with these tyres. If you think the QAA line in the Simpson Desert, the Hay River track, the Gibb River, really you can drive a Camry down that, so that's no big challenge. But we went up the Mungia track in the Northern Kimberleys, and that is really rugged, rocky stuff. And then coming back along the Tanami, no big deal, lots of corrugations, very long stretch of road. But then we came back across the Madigan line. That's a very challenging journey, and it's not so challenging, I think, because it's remote. It's not so challenging because there's like 750k between fuel stops. It's not so challenging because the sand is ultra soft and there's huge amount of sand dunes there. It was challenging because the sand dunes had been turned into moguls. They've been buggered up by people travelling with high tyre pressures and too fast for conditions. And so when we approached all of the bigger sand dunes, they're full-on moguls on the way up, sand moguls. And people think that going faster is going to help, but it only makes the situation worse, and it puts risk to damage to your vehicle. So we had to get out and we had to dig a few of those sand dunes a bit smoother, but mostly we drove up in such a way as to smooth the moguls out. These tyres I'm really pleased with. They're Mickey Thompson Baja ATZs. We're running the 16 by 8 speedy rims, speedy alloys, and we basically got them so they're fairly easy to clean, and they're fairly robust. So the snorkel, everyone will tell you that getting your diesel to be able to breathe easier, to be able to take air a bit higher up, means cleaner air coming in, and no better than a Safari snorkel. A good Australian made product again. Now we've used Safari snorkels over the years. We've been really happy with them, and we're kind of reluctant to change when we are really happy. And this particular snorkel is a real big volume thing for big breathing for the V8. We're pleased to have that. I've got to say, there's other manufacturers that make great snorkels, but be aware, the one that comes with your Toyota as standard is a raised air intake, and it is not waterproof. So if you end up doing deep creek crossings, you can, that come up to the level of your air intake, they can still suck water. Also, side steps, the aluminium side steps that come standard with your Toyota, the first sight of a rock or a log, and they're going to be bent. So we've put in a heavier duty side step from Unique 4x4. They're pretty robust, and they also give a bit more clearance underneath. So we're pleased with those. Now this is something that a lot of people have asked about. The Canopy, on our trip, people have been very impressed with the Canopy. This is made by Trig Point down in Melbourne. And the guys down there have been really helpful for me, because I was looking at different canopies around the country, and we've got some fantastic manufacturers here, there's no doubt, so there's a lot of choice. But I wanted simple, and I liked central locking, and I like the styling of these canopies, and so we selected the Trig Point. Also, Trig Point could manage to deliver it in our time frame as well. So thanks to the guys at Trig Point. Now these, as I said, are central locking. So when I lock the vehicle with the key fob, everything's locked, and when I unlock it with the key fob, everything's unlocked. At least the main canopy. Wendy and I have taken most of our extra gear out of here, so we've only left a few things in here, and I think it's probably best to show you what we've done in here and the way we've fitted this out without too much gear cluttering it up. So in here, again, weight is the enemy, and so we wanted to keep things as light as possible, but there's still certain things that you've got to take. Now, start off with the canopy itself. It's a bit of a composite in the way that it's made. It's got both steel and aluminium in its structure. The canopy doors are made out of aluminium. The actual frame and structure of the canopy is mostly made out of steel, and that's really good because a lot of vibration means it's not going to fatigue like aluminium can. And the very top panel on the roof, as well as the floor down here, are aluminium simply bonded down into the steel frame. So it's really well made. It's really simple. I'm very impressed with the way it's done. And of course, the way we've fitted this out, by the way, I haven't cleaned in here. We've been in a lot of bull dusty sort of country, and you'd think, looking at those vents up the front, that this would fill up with dust. What you see is exactly how it is when we unloaded it. So there is a little bit of dust in here. You'd expect a little bit, but it's pretty trivial. In fact, there's more dust inside the Land Cruiser than there is inside here. Okay, so back to weight is enemy. You can see where the rear wheel and in turn the axle is. We're trying to keep as much weight forward of that as possible. Any weight that comes back here, we try to reduce. Now, building these simple drawer systems and just building them out of plywood and having them slide, they're pretty simple. There's a few manufacturers out there make them really well. I personally would prefer the ply variety to the metal variety, simply because they're simpler, you don't have rollers in them, and they're lighter. So we've made this in such a way that we've got large drawers. Just keep in mind that we've pretty much taken most of the gear out of these drawers. This one here, there's just some basic gear for pumping water, for pumping tyres, for repairing tyres, but normally I'd have most of my heavy tools in the front there. So when you're looking here, because this is my daily drive quite often too, while living down here and working at Ultimate HQ, I love my spearfishing. It was really good to get back home. Second day back, I went for a good spearfishing, got some nice fish and some nice abalone as well. It carries the spears, it carries the fishing line, so things are there when I get the opportunity to use them. You can see up the back here, the blue lines here are air lines for inflating tyres and also extension for that airline, and I'll show you where that plugs in a minute. Also the white hose there is for filling the water tank in here. And the guys at Trig Point fitted a 70 litre polypropylene tank in underneath, which is fantastic. I've added to that with a water pump and a shower, etc., which we'll show you on the other side. When you look in towards the back here, you'll see I've got 4 jerry cans set up across the back. And those jerry cans are strapped in real firm. They're a soft system, just with a 400 kg rated webbing strap. I put those in to give me the ability to carry extra fuel only when I needed it, as opposed to putting in an auxiliary fuel tank, which I think most people tend to keep full all the time. So I've only filled these for for 3 legs. One was the Simpson and the Hay River track. One was the Munger track, and the other time was, of course, the Madigan line. For the Hay River track, I actually ended up with 50% of these left over, so I had 40 litres left. At the end of the Madigan line, I had 22 litres left. So it's great to have that extra capacity, but now that I'm back home, those jerry cans will be coming back out until such time as I need to do another long distance trip. That gives me more space to put the mountain bikes in here, or whatever the case is. Looking up here also, you'll notice we've got 12 volt outlets. We've also got holes for the awning that we designed and made in-house. Okay, what we've also got is storage in underneath. I keep most recovery gear, straps and shackles, etc. in here and on the other side. But what this also does is gives you access to your fuel. And we've put in the airbags from ARB to be able to help just support and level the vehicle when it's fully loaded. They've also been really good. And even looking in there, you can see it's not 100% dust free, but they've done a pretty good job, and most of the gear that goes in there is dirty gear anyway. Fire extinguishers, nice and accessible. We also have a fire extinguisher, very handy just here as well. Haven't needed them, glad of that. I regularly get underneath when we're in Spinifex country and make sure that there's no build-ups. Let's take you around the other side. But while we're there, still on this canopy, I didn't think I'd need the ladder to start with. I thought I'd work out my own. But I got the guys at Trig Point to send this up, and we fitted this. And what a fantastic thing it is. So to climb up to the top via this ladder, I mean, it's just so easy. And it gives really good access. We were carrying firewood on the top. Being able to climb up on the roof and have it passed up so I could strap it down just made it really easy. You can see up here now that we've got on the roof racks 4 bog mats, Max Tracks. We only needed them a few times, but when we needed them we were very thankful we had them. I've actually set this roof rack up with the roller on the back, and that allows me to put the kayaks up when I'm back home, or if I'm doing a trip where I want to take kayaks. They roll up, push them across, climb up, strap them down, nice and easy. See on the outside here, we've also fitted up mini floodlights. Now these floodlights make it good for when you're setting up camp. They light up the area around you, they light up the ultimate for when we set up in the dark. We've also got 2 cameras. We'll show you the inside on the monitors soon. But this camera is set up by Trig Point as well, and that pretty much replaces your rear vision mirror. And it's a fantastic thing to have. It really helps. Mind you, I keep looking up at the monitor expecting to see my reflection and don't. And this is a part of the Kenwood system, so it certainly makes reversing and parking and hooking up really good too. So this little camera here. Underneath we've got, this is again set up by Trig Point, access to the water tank, so we can get water in and out this way by just turning on the gate valve. I also fill the tank from here, so I can just plug straight into there and I can fill the tank. Makes it nice and easy. But right underneath, I don't know if you can see it, we've mounted an electric diaphragm pump, water pump, and that's what works for the water on the inside. Now a lot of people might put 2 tyres on the back. Remember, we've been very weight conscious here, trying to keep it down in the vehicle, and it's certainly weight back here. You're looking at 30, 35 kilo, maybe even 40 kilo per rim and tyre. So When we tow our camper trailers, we always try to have interchangeable rims and tyres. So where we've just gone, we've had a spare tyre on the camper, a spare tyre on the vehicle, and both of them are interchangeable. It's very rare that you puncture camper trailer tyres. So that allowed us to only take one spare on the vehicle. We do, of course, have all tyre puncture repair kits on board and good air compressors for filling them up. Okay, so the way that we've wired this up, we've put in underneath here, and we'll show you that in a minute, a Remco 170 amp hour AGM battery. And it's only 110 millimeters wide, though it's about 500 long and 300 high. And it weighs 45 kilos or thereabouts. And so we've mounted that right forward, just underneath here. In here, to charge that battery, we've got a Red Arc DC-DC charger, which makes sure that that battery's well charged all the time. And up here you've got some simple controls, nothing too fancy. I wanted to keep it fairly simple. The first one is for this fridge, and I'll come back to the fridge in one tick. The second one is basically its lighting, so those floodlights I showed you at the back are now on. This third one, I've just powered up the pump for the water, for the shower, and this one here is the air compressor. So I've had that air compressor for a while. It's a US made Thomas, and I figured I might as well, instead of carrying that around loose, I might as well put that one in fixed in this system. But we've combined it with a Superior Engineering air reservoir, a 9-litre reservoir I think that one is. And that gives us outlets. It's got automatic pressure cut off, which is great. So when that gets, I think it's up to 130 psi, the pump will turn off. It gives us the ability, and by the way, these surface coverings are great for Velcro. You can see Velcro stuff all over the place. So it gives us the ability to be able to clean different bits of gear with the extension cord, or even blow dust off the back of the steps of the camper. We can basically use that very efficiently in different areas, but of course first and foremost it's there to be able to pump tyres up. So I'll turn that off before it cuts out. Little gauge here giving us an indication, you know, that there's still good power in the battery here, and all the fuses nice and accessible. With those fuses, the fuse that's blown, there's a little LED light that comes on alongside it, so you don't have to pull them all out to work out which one it is. A bit of labelling helps. Okay, when you look at these tracks up here too, these tracks are basically a Rhino track, and we've got tie-down eyes that we can put in. So any cargo I've got up here that I need secured, I've got easy points to do that too. In here, as I said, I'll show you inside. Oh, and look, these outlets here are great. You know, you've got your 12-volt SIG plugs plus your USB outlets. And I've been able to charge cameras, Osmos, like what's filming me right now, and even the little drones right here, which has been really helpful. Now we've got a lot of stuff in underneath here. The sort of stuff I carry, even though we've taken a lot out. Welding rods. I've never had to use them in real life. So, and in here, you know, explains why I'm carrying welding sticks. I've got the full welding kit here, so I can actually link up to 3 batteries and have pretty good value welding capability. Again, I haven't used that, and I've been traveling with that for over 20 years. One day, I'll be able to say, hey, I've got a welder. Have you got the batteries? Okay, what else we've got in here?
What other goodies?
Yeah, all sorts of goodies. Spare filters, so spare fuel filters.
Any lollies?
No lollies. Spare radiator hoses. And of course I've got the clamps in there somewhere. Alright, so carrying basic spares is really important. We'll just chuck them away. On the other side, that's the Remco battery. It's strapped in there with 3 400 kilo breaking strain webbing straps. It's not, and of course it's wedged, so it can't move anywhere either. So totally low maintenance or no maintenance, and a great solution to a very limited space from Remco. Okay, so over this side we've got more stuff. We've got a spare fan belt, and the belts these days, it's one belt does all. So if your belt lets go, you're stopped if you haven't got a spare. Ooh, another radiator hose. And then we get into the different fluids. So we've got spare fluids for everything from brakes to engine and clutch and so on and so forth. I won't pull everything out, trust me. And I did mention hose clamps. Now again, usually if you take that sort of gear, if you take spare fluids, if you take spare, I'll show you behind the seat too, I've got air filters as well as more fuel filters. If you take that gear with you, chances are you're not going to need it. But the day you don't take it, that's when you're going to really wish you had. So it's insurance. Just like taking a net for the fish I'm going to catch. Up here is something that we designed, and I'm going to show you that, not right now, but another time. It's our Spinifex guard, so it basically clips on very neatly to the front of the grill. And also in there I've got a similar canvas screen for deep water crossings as basically a wade-in bra. Here, as I mentioned, we've got the ability to have a simple shower, wash down your feet. I used it the other day to wash myself and my wetsuit, my diving gear down, which was really good, and works like so. And a bit of soapy water there as well. Table, picnic chairs, the sort of stuff that we use every opportunity we can gets left inside. The fridge, I should have given it a bit of a clean or wipe before filming this, but we looked at the different drawer fridges. We looked at the Angles at 30 litres, and we looked at the Wacos at 30 litres, but Evercool had a 40 litre fridge, and it's a freezer as well. So we thought we'd give this one a try, and of course it's built in as part of this system, and we've found it to be absolutely fantastic. Now, you know, we've got, as you'd imagine with the journey we've just done, we've got a bit of rubbing marks in there from the cans of beer, etc. that we're carrying, but we've found this to be a real fantastic addition to the 79 series. I can't fault it. We allowed a certain amount of ventilation in the back of it to get rid of the heat from the motor and the compressor, but it's worked perfectly. Mind you, the temperatures so far have really only been up to 30 degrees, so we'll keep looking in the future. I hope to go on a fishing trip in the very near future when I can fill this up and freeze different fish that we catch. Lighting. Again from Trig Point, when you open up one of the canopy doors, this light comes on by itself, lights up everything you need inside, which is really good. We've added some to the outside as well. So if you have a look at the outside ones, all LED lighting, so it's all really low power. And it's really good. It gives you heaps of extra light for setting up camp. More storage, recovery gear, etc. into this locker. Okay, so because we've got dogs and we get pretty grotty, the dogs get pretty grotty, we go to the beaches lots. We figured we'd put some good protective seat covers onto the standard seats, and we've gone for the wet seats, and we are really impressed. They are really well made, and it's a great material. There's a lot of storage behind a 79 series cruiser seat, and that battery that we showed you in the back there could actually fit in here. I'll just open that up a different way so you can see even more. So I've put in on top of the side, the standard Toyota jack, I put in a pretty heavy duty jack there as well. It hasn't been in use, it hasn't been out, we haven't had tyre problems. What we've also got here is a spare air filter. The first aid, very important. And I'm going to put a sticker on the outside so other people know where to find it. Spare fuel filters, and the subwoofer, the Fusion subwoofer. So a lot of space behind the seat, and we've used it fairly well. Again, behind the seats here, I love to have clean windscreens. Dirty windscreens just annoy me. And so I've got the bars leaks there. Okay, the sort of stuff that we take, you know, there's little things like, you know, your good bush knives or bush saws. They can be pretty handy. I've got, of course, the winch cable here, and I mentioned earlier something really important. These are cheap as chips nowadays. It's a laser temperature gauge, and I don't know if you can see that. That's basically telling me the temperature. So for instance, Emmy filming me, she's really cool under the collar, ice cool she is, 31.4 degrees. She needs to warm up a bit. Anyway, laser temperature gauge, check your temperature of your tyres, your bearings, your brakes, and importantly also your shock absorbers. The harder you work them, the more you should check. I hate fixing things. I'd rather adjust them before they fail. And so laser temperature gauge makes that very helpful, very easy to do that. Over this way, just in case, I've carried this around forever. I've never had to use one, but I know where it is and other people do too. Good binoculars, machete over there, and something down low I'll show you, which is really important. There's a huge amount of space underneath these Land Cruiser seats, so you can make up boxes and bags that fit under there. But this here, just a simple little breaker bar. It gives you the ability to be able to, you know, undo and do up wheel nuts. What this also lets me do is just quickly walk up the front when I need to lock the front hubs on the front diff. So a breaker bar of one type or another is really important. Don't rely on the little bar that Toyota gives you in its kit. You really have to have big arms to make them work. We'll move to the front. So on the inside, I mentioned that we've got that rear vision camera. So this is the rear vision camera that Trig Point fitted up, and that's very helpful. Navigating, I'm using the HEMA Explorer app, and that's been absolutely fantastic for the trips that we've done. We still managed to get lost, but I got to say it's no fault of the HEMA maps. We've put in a Kenwood system here. I'll talk more about that later. And we've got the cruiser console, center console and tray. So that's really helpful. Gives us more drink holders and trays for the knickknacks, and a place to rest your arm. What comes standard in a Land Cruiser is like 3 ashtrays, a cigarette lighter and 1 drink holder, and that's crazy. So now we've got 3 drinks up here, plus we put in the Cruiser Console brand speaker pods, and when you have a look outside you'll see that they've worked really well. So that's terrific. Really pleased with that. We've got the Red Arc Tow Pro electronic braking system in, of course. And they're absolutely fantastic. They're so idiot proof. These cruisers come standard with, or the GXL comes standard with diff locks. If you haven't got them, get them. They make a world of difference when you need them. So I think we've pretty well covered everything in here. Of course the GME UHF, absolutely essential, but again remember these are only line of sight communications. So if you ever get yourself in a shit, you probably need a little bit better than that to get out of it. we travel with backup navigation, Garmin and Topo maps. For absolute emergencies, I take the KTI personal locator beacon. Now I take that when I'm motorbiking, because if I have an accident out there by myself, I need to be able to call for help. And I take that sometimes kayaking in off the coast, but definitely if we get in a shit and it's life-threatening, then we've got the way to call for help. Okay, probably the only thing I think I missed there on the front was this is the mount for the sand flag. It's a good safety requirement when you're doing sand dunes, and in South Australia it's a legal requirement too. So I've got that stored in the back for future trips there. So that's a quick rundown on our Mighty 79 series. We didn't stretch it, we didn't put in extra axles, we haven't chucked chips on the engine. There's a lot of things that we haven't done to this that you could do, but we wanted to keep it pretty simple. Most important things: good rubber, good suspension, which I haven't touched much on, but we've basically got a 2-inch lift, and we've also got a GVM upgrade, which is really important if you're going to load your vehicles up. This weighed in fully loaded at 3,480 kilos, and that's the standard amount allowable gross vehicle mass is 3,300. We got a GVM upgrade from ARB to 3,780, so that puts us 300 kilo under the maximum. So the suspension works really well. So as I was saying, you know, we haven't covered everything in detail. There's awnings and other upgrades that we've done in here that we can touch on in the future if you like. You might have noticed some pretty good armrests in there. If you didn't, you're going to have to rewind and have a close look. We're going to talk more about them later and maybe make them available for purchase. Thanks a lot for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe, and there's more to come.